When the topic of horror slasher villains are brought up, you'll obviously hear the obvious topics such as Jason, Michael Myers, Ghostface, Freddy Krueger, and maybe guys like Leatherface and Art the Clown. Although out of all slasher villains that have been introduced throughout the decades, there has always been one that has been on my favorites ever since I was introduced to them. And that slasher is the Miner. The Miner is a slasher villain from the movie My Bloody Valentine, and I feel like out of all slashers, I never really hear anybody mention him. And that's really because he had the short end of the stick compared to others, since there was the original My Bloody Valentine and the 2009 remake. And I'm not saying that just because he only had 2 movies that he was forgotten because of it. If we look at box office numbers for slasher films released around the same time as My Bloody Valentine, the original John Carpenter Halloween made around $70 million with a budget of around $300,000. The first Friday the 13th movie made around $60 million with a budget of around $550,000 to $650,000. And A Nightmare on Elm Street also made around $60 million with a budget of around $1 million. But when we look at the numbers for My Bloody Valentine, it gets rather sad, as it only made around $6 million, which already sounds bad, but it gets even worse when we consider the budget of the movie was around $2.3 million, which is the lowest number made out of those movies, and also the highest budget out of all of them. And while the 2009 remake did a lot better, making around $100 million with only a budget of around $14 million, they just never decided to make another movie since then. But seeing that Blumhouse is apparently reviving the series for another movie, although we haven't really got much information about it, and seeing that as the time of writing the script, it is February, which is the month of Valentine's Day, I decided to go look back on the Miner, and I want to explain why I think the Miner is an underrated slasher villain, and why I love him so much. So without further ado, let's get into it. As mentioned before, the Miner is from the movie My Bloody Valentine, which is a slasher movie that takes place during Valentine's Day. The Miner scores a gas mask, a hard hat with a big light on the front, wears dark blue clothes, and wields a pickaxe as his primary weapon, but I'll go more in depth on the design later on. The Miner has actually had 3 different identities throughout the original and 2009 remake, so I'm going to quickly talk about all 3 of them right now. The first Miner in both the original and 2009 remake is Harry Warden. He was a miner in the Hanniger mines, and during Valentine's Day, nobody checked the methane gas levels before sending a group of miners out into the mines. This caused an explosion which trapped Harry and 5 other miners inside the mines. Now, depending on the version of the movie you watch, some information changes. Like in the original My Bloody Valentine, Harry eats the other miners in order to survive, where a year after being rescued, he kills the 2 supervisors that were responsible for the explosion, and puts their hearts inside a box of chocolate hearts, warning the town of Valentine Bluffs to never host another Valentine's dance again. He's then sent to Eastfield Sanatorium, where he then proceeds to die 15 years after. While, on the flip side, in the remake, he only kills the other miners in order to conserve oxygen, where he eventually falls into a coma. Years after he's rescued, he decides to go on a killing spree, taking the lives of 22 people. He then goes back to the mines to kill Tom Henniger, since he forgot to bleed the lines, which is the reason for the mine explosion. Before he was able to, he got shot by 2 policemen, where he was eventually killed by them after being found at the escape hatch. Axel Palmer is the second miner in the original movie, where he went insane after seeing his father murdered by Harry when he was young. Many years later, he tries to get the Valentine's dance cancelled by killing people dressed up as Harry Warden. He then goes back to the mines in order to stop all of the teens from having a secret party, where he eventually are revealed and trapped under debris. But he escaped after severing his arm and swears that he and Harry will be back. And now the final and second miner of the remake is Tom Henniger. After seeing his friends get murdered by Harry, Tom was sent to a mental institute for 7 years, but then returned back to the town 3 years later, where he started seeing Harry killing people. At the end, he realizes that he was actually the miner after accidentally saying something that only the miner would know, since he wasn't present at the scene. Whereafter, he gets shot and caught in an explosion. And just like Axel Palmer, he didn't die, and him and Harry would also be back. Now let's get into why I love the Miner so much as a slasher. Let's first start off with realism, since out of all slasher villains, I personally think that he has one of the highest probability of being an actual threat in the real world. Now, I do say one of, and that's because I actually think that Ghostface has the highest probability of being a real threat in the actual world. But back onto the main topic. The standard miner outfit feels like a quick disguise that Harry just got because it was very easy to obtain, since he already worked at the mines beforehand. And then the other miners used it to then make everyone believe that it was Harry back for another slaughter run. The whole split personality between the miner and the real person thing actually makes sense in a real world sense. Dissociated identity disorder, or DID for short, is a disorder where someone has two or more different personalities that can change your behavior. Whenever your personality changes, there's actually gaps in your memory, which is why they never knew that they were the miner, or at least Tom, in the first place. And one of the things that actually caused DID is trauma, which, as we mentioned earlier, that each of the miners only became the miner after they experienced some sort of trauma, like Axel Palmer seeing his father being killed by the miner, or Tom Hanniger seeing all of his friends killed by the miner in the mines. And the last part of the realism is that he's just a human running around, letting him actually being smart instead of running around mindlessly. One of the examples I'll say is that in the remake, whenever he goes back into the mines to kill Tom, instead of actually just running around with his light on, he actually turns it off, being able to think. Now let's go back to design, since I absolutely love design, which might just be a me thing, because I might be a little bit biased since I just love Gas Mask characters a lot. Some examples I can think of are Pyro and the Scarecrow designs from the Arkham series. But I think the part of his design that I like the most is that everything that he wears is dark. The near black clothes makes him a shadow in dark places, leaving nothing but his light shining back at you. I find that one light to be so ominous because of how you never expect a threat to shine a light right at you. It could also be used to try to blind your enemies so that you can get in closer without them knowing where to run. The design is also pretty practical for blending in, since it's just a generic miner clothing gear, which raises less eyebrows upon seeing him initially. But of course, if you see him just wandering around locations that are outside the mines, then it's pretty obvious that it isn't a regular miner. And despite him using a pickaxe, he is able to use it with efficiency and speed a majority of the time, instead of taking the largest swings known to mankind. But this could also just range from different miners, so it really depends on who is the miner. And the last point I'd like to bring up is that there are many unanswered questions about the character, such as what happens if they die before causing any traumatic experiences? Would that just possibly eliminate the possibility of a new miner? And also, it seems like they have some sort of connection with Harry, being able to communicate. Now, this is just probably part of the identity disorder that each miner gets, but it has so much potential to be something much deeper. Like, whenever you get trauma, you personally have a piece of Harry's soul looming with you. Now, in my opinion, I feel like it's honestly better if none of these are ever answered in the future. I feel like the mystery of not knowing much about the character and his full potential is an amazing thing, since anyone can have their own interpretation on how powerful the miner actually is and what he is capable of doing. Now, to end off, I'd like to give my opinions on what I would want to see out of the miner in Blumhouse's My Bloody Valentine movie that's upcoming. I would like to start off with a new person becoming the miner, since both Axel and Tom both became the miner. So I feel like the only reasonable thing to do is to make Sarah the next miner to finish off the main three characters of the movies. This would also be the first female miner, which would confirm that anybody could be the miner and not just only male characters. I would also prefer that they try not to do much that hasn't already been done with the character before. The miner as a character has been effective in both the previously released films, so if they do too much where it makes it feel like the miner is too much of a threat, it might eliminate some of the mystery factor that I love about the character. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about the miner. He's just a slasher villain that has been executed in one of the best ways possible in my opinion. But due to unfortunate circumstances where the original movie didn't get much money in the box office, it just didn't go anywhere. Or at least not to the same capacity as all the other slasher villains. So yeah, that's really all I want to say, so see ya.